Hello, this is Breakfast with Charlie State and Susanna Reid.
Revealed how Northern Rock kept funding risky mortgages even after it was propped up by the taxpayer.
£800 million worth of loans were handed out. Many of those householders are now in negative equity.
Good morning, it's Friday the 20th of March.
Also ahead on Breakfast this morning, shortages of beds, delays in admissions and poorly trained staff. A leading children's hospital is accused of a catalogue of failings.
Is this right up your street? We'll ask Google whether their new online map is a boon for burglars and for nosy parkers.
I did it my
It's 40 years since Old Blue Eyes recorded this. But what does make a classic song? We're going to be trying to find out this morning.
Yes, and on the subject of nostalgia, do you remember the times when you could go into a little independent record shop, look through the records for hours on end? They're pretty much gone. Only 300 left in the UK now, apparently.
We'll have a special report on that. And Alex has the weather for us this morning.
Thanks very much, Susanna. It's a bit of a chilly start once more. There's a bit of cloud around once more, but yet again, by this afternoon, most of us will have the sunshine, which should last into the weekend. All the weather details in 15 minutes.
Alex, thank you very much. Good morning. First, our main story. It's been revealed that the struggling bank Northern Rock continued with high-risk lending even after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
A report by the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, also says the government knew as early as 2004 that it wasn't properly prepared to cope if banks got into trouble, but failed to make it a priority.
The queues of panicked depositors at branches of Northern Rock marked the beginning of Britain's banking crisis. In September 2007, the Bank of England stepped in to bail out the Rock, and it was nationalised 5 months later. Today's report said that was the right decision, but it has plenty of criticisms to make about the Treasury's dealings with the bank before and after its demise. £800 million of high-risk mortgages were given out after the bank got support from the taxpayer. The report says the Treasury was severely stretched and underprepared for the crisis. And the government spent £79 million on advisory fees to financial advisors during the nationalisation of the bank. The National Audit Office report also says the Treasury realised it might struggle to deal with a failing bank back in 2004, but didn't make it a priority. But it's the Rock's continued high-risk lending after the government stepped in that has angered the opposition.
I'm surprised and shocked. I think the government, when it saw that it needed to bail out Northern Rock, should have stepped in immediately to stop the 125% mortgage lending, which was precisely the sort of reckless lending that had gotten Northern Rock into trouble in the first place.
The Treasury denies being badly prepared for the Rock's problems and says lending was necessary to keep the business going. But the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats have said this report demonstrates government incompetence and complacency. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
The American House of Representatives has voted to impose a 90% tax on bonuses given to employees of companies which have been bailed out by the taxpayer. It comes after widespread public anger about a multi-million-dollar bonus package paid to workers in the struggling insurance company AIG, which was rescued using public money.
People may soon be allowed to take terminally ill patients abroad for assisted suicide. The former Health Secretary Patricia Hewitt is tabling an amendment to a bill going through Parliament under which people could take terminally ill relatives abroad to suicide clinics and not face prosecution when they get back. Opponents say any change would have tragic consequences.
Another of the government's flagship hospitals has been heavily criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff. It comes after a damning report on conditions at Stafford Hospital earlier this week. But the government says the hospital has already acted on recommendations to improve care.
Over 140,000 children are treated here each year. And admissions are on the increase. That had put a strain on its services, but today's report says the patients deserved better.
What we've seen here is a trust which is actually not able to cope with the demand on its services. This has resulted in delays, some patients being transferred elsewhere. The quality of care hasn't always been what it should.
So here's what the Commission has told the Trust to do. Make sure patients are admitted and treated more quickly. Provide proper support staff for surgeons. And improve communication with consultants so that problems can be identified earlier. They sound like basic hospital rules, but the Trust says the nature of its work means they can be overlooked.
Clearly, I would rather that none of this had ever happened, but the fact is, in any complex organisation which deals with the sort of children that we have to deal with, problems will arise.
It's the second Foundation Trust to be criticised by the Healthcare Commission this week. It says Stafford Hospital's emergency care was so poor that 400 people died needlessly. Government officials are now carrying out their own investigation. That's not needed here, but like Stafford, questions are still being asked about why these issues were not raised sooner. Fiona Trott, BBC News, Birmingham.
Yes, in around about an hour's time, we'll be getting reaction from the NHS Confederation to that report.
And if you're away from your television and want to keep up to date with the latest developments in that story, you can check the BBC News website on your mobile phone. You just type bbc.co.uk/news into your phone's internet browser to access the latest news on the move.
Broadway theatres dimmed their lights last night in tribute to the actress Natasha Richardson. Over the years, she performed in numerous theatre productions there. Her family, including her sister Jolie and her husband Liam Neeson, were joined by other actors to pay tribute to the actress who died after a skiing accident in Canada this week.
Veterans of the D-Day landings are to be offered help to take part in the 65th anniversary commemorations in France. 500 veterans have said they'd like to go to Normandy in June, but there's been no official offer of support from the Ministry of Defence until now. The MOD has said it will offer support, but it's still not clear whether they'll help to pay for the trip.
President Obama has made a direct appeal to the people of Iran to end 30 years of distrust between the two countries. In a video message to the broadcast in the Middle East, he offered a new beginning and said he was committed to diplomacy. Came just hours after he made a guest appearance on a primetime American talk show hosted by Jay Leno.
There are concerns that an earthquake in the Pacific Ocean will only increase the amount of lava and ash currently pouring out of a volcano in the area. No one's thought to have been injured by the quake, but the eruption has thrown huge clouds of ash into the air, which are destroying wildlife and vegetation off the coast of Tonga.
Amazing images, those.
Spectacular pictures. Those are this morning's main stories. 7 minutes past 6. And Mike, you've done a long stint this week, haven't you?
It's become my second home, this lovely old sofa. I'm very comfortable.
It's a lovely new sofa.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Now, Manchester City's poor away form nearly cost them last night. They had this 2-0 lead going to Denmark, but they threw it away at the end, and so it went to penalties. A nervous night for City fans then, but well done. You've made it into the quarter-final draw of the UEFA Cup. That takes place later today, but only after throwing away that first leg lead and then the penalties, the dreaded penalties in Denmark. Now, it was 2-2 on aggregate then after extra time against Danish champions Aalborg. Shay Given was the hero, saving 2 kicks as City won the shootout 4-3, sparking the celebrations. Now, for the second season running, 4 English clubs are in the hat for today's Champions League draw for the quarter-final there. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester United will learn their fate at around 11 o'clock this morning. Now, Andy Murray will face Roger Federer in the semi-finals of the Indian Wells Masters 1000. The world number 4 came through a really tough encounter with Ivan Ljubicic of Croatia, winning 7-5, 7-6 to book his place in the last 8. Andrew Strauss is fit to captain England for today's first one-day game against the West Indies in Guyana, but Andrew Flintoff's hip injury looks likely to keep him out until the 3rd game of the 5-match series. And we saw her come second earlier in the week, but now the double Olympic gold medalist Rebecca Adlington made the pool her own. Look at this victory here to win the 800 metres freestyle title at the British Swimming Championships in Sheffield by a huge margin. Way ahead there of Jasmine Carlin and Kerry Ann Payne. Now, of course, tomorrow it's the climax of this season's Six Nations Rugby Union, and for the first time since 1948, Ireland could do the Grand Slam. Actually, it wasn't known as the Grand Slam then. That term came in 1957. But the Independent here has an article on the boys of 48. The only problem is they've got to go to Wales. They've got to avoid defeat by 13 points or more. But it says here, since 1948, no country has spoiled Ireland's final day party as often as Wales. A lovely line here as well. The hero of the day then, the late John Daly. His shirt was ripped from his back and was sold in 100 pieces in the bars of Belfast. And quite a few of the papers are making comparisons and saying the other big thing that happened that week. Can you remember? 1948? Probably not. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Can you remember,
help me.
Sorry, I didn't really like that.
Back, Mike.
The other big event this week in 1948 was Albert the Rhesus Monkey, the first primate into space.
What do you see now you mention
really?
it?
Yeah. Not that I remember, of course.
Yes. And tomorrow, the big day, of course, we've got a few of the rival.
Yeah, we're going to have Keith Wood. We're talking to Keith Wood and Ian Evans or Jonathan Davis. And, of course, we won't forget the other games as well. France, Italy and England, Scotland, Calcutta Cup, even though those two teams can't win the title. It is down to Ireland and Wales. Wales can retain the title, but they can't do the Grand Slam. But Ireland can do the big one, as I say, for the first time since all those years ago.
Very exciting day.
Exciting day.
Mike, we'll speak to you a little bit later. We'll have a look through some of the papers now.
Yeah, let's whiz through the headlines this morning. The Daily Mirror, a family's agony, the faces of those affected by the death of Natasha Richardson on the front of the Mirror this morning.
Yeah, it's front page of The Guardian there. New whistleblower claims over £1 billion Barclays tax deals. This is a story about Barclays memos leaked to the Liberal Democrats, as the allegations there.
Daily Express this morning suggesting that there might be a glimmer of hope for those affected by Alzheimer's. Revolutionary new drugs report the paper could slow the progress of the disease, possibly even stop the disease in its tracks.
Front page of the Daily Telegraph, the picture story there, you can see this picture of Erica Connor. She was a head teacher of a primary school, forced out by false accusations of racism and religious discrimination. She won £400,000 yesterday.
A story in the Daily Mail that we've been reporting in our news this morning, Gordon Brown's. Well, the paper calls it a remarkable U-turn over the 65th anniversary of the D-Day landings this summer. The Prime Minister indicating he will be happy to attend a commemoration ceremony in Normandy on June the 6th. And the Ministry of Defence possibly giving some assistance to veterans who want to travel to France, agreeing to hold new talks with veterans leaders.
Yes, and several of the papers giving quite a bit of time to this coverage this morning. Of course, Liam Neeson and the death of his wife, Natasha. There was that event last night in the US on Broadway where many people were paying tribute to her. And this is an image of him returning from home, returning to his home last night.
Now, an extraordinary photograph in The Guardian this morning. That's the cloud of ash which erupted from the undersea volcano 6 miles from the coast of Tonga's main island, Tongatapu. An area where there are 36 volcanoes. No one hurt in that explosion.
Extraordinary image, isn't it? You're going to do that? What about the little horse?
Yes, and this is a heartwarming story. The Daily Mail. Look at this sad picture here of Ali. This is a horse, a little pony. When RSPCA officers raided a farm, they discovered this 6-year-old chestnut and thought that he would never be able to walk properly. You can't probably see in that picture his hooves, but they are horribly overgrown and look extremely painful. Well, the RSPCA didn't just restore Ali to health, they have made him into a prize winner. And here he is now. He's a prize-winning pony. He now appears at shows. And he's done very well.
We're going to do the weird fish, but we'll maybe pick up on that later. Instead of having a weird fish, we'll go to Aaron.
I wanted to see the weird fish, actually. Morning, Charlie. Morning, Susanna. Hello, everybody. Well, let's start with, The Guardian. Take a look at this man here. You're looking at the first black man to become the boss of a FTSE 100 company. Tidjane Thiam is his name. He's a French national. He's the boss of the Prudential. Actually, only 10 years ago, he escaped the Ivory Coast in Africa, fleeing from the coup there. He's going to get about £875,000 a year plus bonuses. Now, there is a word causing a lot of contention at the moment. Charlie, you've already mentioned this story, but in the Financial Times, boy, the row with the AIG. Now, this is a US insurance giant which received a bailout to the tune of £120 billion. It paid about £115 million in bonuses. Legislation is going through Congress. As you said, Charlie, it could see the bankers have to pay about 90% on those bonuses in tax. Different world for, of course, the bankers and the big bosses nowadays. Quick story in the Telegraph. RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland and Citigroup on the other side of the Atlantic cancelling those private luxury jet orders. And very quickly, the big story yesterday, the British International Motor Show being cancelled for 2010. Of course, the car industry in the grips of the worst crisis it has ever seen. The only time it's ever stopped before, well, it was because of the World Wars. It started in 1903. Now, the reason it stopped some of the other stories we're across is today we are very likely to see the latest car production figures in the for the UK, expected to show a big fall, a big drop-off for the month of February. This comes on top of the 60% drop that we already saw back in January. The British government is now considering a cash incentive to get drivers to scrap their old cars and replace them with newer models. All of this, of course, in a bid to kickstart those sales. Those production figures will be out at 9 a.m. this morning. We'll be touching on those on the news channel. Well, here's a question. Is owning a franchise a safer option than setting up your own business? It looks like it could be the case because recent figures show franchises are thriving despite the recession. 93% of franchisees are running profitable business. There's a much lower failure rate than startup or standalone startups. And the reason we're talking about franchises, well, it's the start of the British and International Franchise Exhibition this weekend. We'll be speaking to a successful franchisee photographer, Angie Burns. That's about 10 to 8. Let's just take a quick look at the FTSE. Not a bad day. It closed just a pinch up, though, off the back of miners and the banks. That's it. I'll be back in about half an hour to talk more about this National Audit Office report into Northern Rock.
Aaron, thanks very much indeed.
Time now is 16 minutes past 6. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. The main stories this morning. It's been revealed Northern Rock lent millions of pounds in high-risk mortgages after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
Another hospital has been criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff.
And also coming up in the programme this morning, Google's latest maps are crystal clear images from across the UK. But not everyone likes the idea of their house being caught on camera for all the world to see.
It's very odd seeing your own house.
Yes, I mean, if you don't know about it, you can zoom in literally to your street and look at each house individually.
You can't quite zoom into your living room, though,
no,
can
it's
you?
Close.
Thank goodness. Shall we have a look at the weather now with Alex? Morning, Alex.
Good morning, Susanna. It's another sunny start to the day here in London. It is, again, a little bit on the chilly side. There's a touch of frost across southeast England, a fairly widespread frost across Scotland. In between, there's quite a lot of cloud around, so for many it is a bit of a grey start, but that cloud is going to disappear, so by this afternoon, yet again, most of us will be bathed in spring sunshine. It should last into the weekend as well. As I said, though, it is quite a grey start across the Midlands, much of East Wales, that cloud extending across northeast England into southwest England. Parts of Northern Ireland also starting off fairly cloudy, but as we run through the day, see how that cloud just gets hoovered up really, and by this afternoon, most of us with the blue skies. Now, some parts of the east coast of Scotland may just stay a little bit misty, but generally across Scotland it's going to be fine and sunny. 12 the high in Glasgow. Similar temperatures across northern England. Again, parts of the northeast coast may just stay a little bit cloudy, but generally it's going to be a brighter day than yesterday across Lincolnshire and East Anglia. Lots of sunshine here. Sunny skies right along the south coast of England. Still a bit breezy through parts of Cornwall, a bit of a chilly wind blowing here, but in the sunshine, get out of that wind. It's pretty lovely. Highs of 12 or 13 Celsius. Fine and sunny for most of the day across Wales, and another corking day in Northern Ireland with blue skies here yet again. It will get a bit chilly though if you're heading out this evening, but I think most of us will have a dry evening. Those temperatures dropping like a stone though. A little bit of mist and fog here and there, but for most of us it will be those temperatures. You notice a touch of frost is likely by Saturday morning, so a cold start to the weekend, but it should be a fine day by and large. A bit more cloud spilling in across Scotland and Northern Ireland during Saturday. A little bit of patchy rain is possible here later on in the day, but for England and Wales it should be another fine and sunny day, and temperatures again reaching 12 or 13 Celsius. There will be more cloud to come across the country on Sunday. A bit more cloud spilling in, certainly across England and Wales, but even then it should still be dry and bright for the most part, and temperatures maybe a little bit down on Sunday, so getting a little bit cooler as we go through the weekend. But for most of us, we can't really complain. This time of year, a pretty good looking weekend, and lots more sunshine today once we've lost the early cloud. It all looks pretty good if you like the spring sunshine. Back to you two.
Alex, thank you. Good weather to be outdoors, is it not?
Yeah, hasn't it been? It's been absolutely lovely. So continue enjoying that. 19 minutes past 6. Picture-perfect villages everywhere are dusting off their hanging baskets in readiness for the annual Britain in Bloom competition.
But this year the contest is about more than just flowers. Breakfast Anna Adams is in Manchester and can explain more. What's happening, Anna?
Well, we're here in Hume in a community garden. You can see there's some volunteers here seeding up. It might look like a normal garden, but it's actually in the middle of a car park, in the middle of a housing estate just outside Manchester. This is the type of garden that the Britain in Bloom organisers are hoping will be attracted to the competition, but it hasn't always been quite so modern.
How many kinds of sweet flowers grow in an English country garden?
Britain in Bloom, the competition every village and market town wanted to win. It was all hanging baskets and floral roundabouts, the very essence of Middle England.
Yeah, there is joy in the spring when the birds begin to sing in an English country garden.
But now, 45 years on, the competition's had a facelift, and it's hoping to transform inner cities and attract a new breed of gardener. Kids at this after-school club in Charlestown and Manchester are hoping their backyard can become a prize-winning garden. And while they might not be the most experienced gardeners, they're certainly keen.
Yeah, like that. It's fun but a bit messy. It's really fun because it gets you exercise and it gets you big and strong. Messy and fun, but you get to wash your hands anyway.
Residents of this tower block down the road are also competing for the prize. They're working with young offenders to create a communal garden out of wasteland.
No, that manhole cupboard in.
Nick, a convicted burglar, is using his community service to help.
It's outstanding the amount of people that you meet and the projects that you do. At the end of it, like I said, this just looks blank at the moment, but once it's done, you'd be amazed with yourself. It makes you feel a lot better as well, putting stuff back into the community.
RHS Britain in Bloom has always been more than just hanging baskets and roundabouts. It's been about communities. But this year we're changing the criteria on judging to make sure that we reinforce that.
It's already one of the biggest horticultural events in Europe, with more than 2 million people taking part. And this year could be even bigger, because you don't have to have a hanging basket to take part. Well, here at Hume, at this community garden, this is a type of garden that we're going to see more and more of in the future, and it's the brainchild of Clive Pyatt. Clive, tell us a bit about your garden here, what's got going on?
We started off quite some time ago where we decided we wanted to do something in the community to get neighbours together. So we decided one way of doing it and tackling difficulties within the community of communicating was to get people together, get people's text numbers, talk to people about what they wanted to see and bring some life back into our community. So we decided we'd do a neighbourhood planting scheme. That's how we started off. That was about 3 years ago now.
So you're using things like Facebook and text to get people interested in gardening, but what are you actually planting? Can you show some of the things here?
Sure. The main thing that we started off thinking is people want to have healthy lifestyles and want to be able to sort of join in and do things going on from growing it to actually eating it. So we decided that what we'd do is plant rosemary.
Yeah.
We're trying to stimulate all 6 senses that people have. The sixth sense being thought. So we're growing rosemary, growing bay trees, growing eucalyptus because that's fantastic for the sense, sniffing, smelling. But we grow lots of herbs. We've got 12 different herbs growing in our community and 18 different vegetables that we grow ourselves as well.
And it's the award that you won, is not just for what you grow, but also for the amount of people that are coming down here. You said something like 70 to 100 people can come down here at a weekend.
Oh yeah, on a Sunday morning we have the gazebo here with 2 tables full of people outside, having coffees, having different teas, juice, fresh fruit, and also we've got the cherry trees that we go out and we pick the cherries off, so we eat our own cherries that we grow, so that's a great way as well.
Lovely. Clive, thanks very much for joining us. Well, as you can see, this is a very different kind of garden, but don't worry, the more traditional garden still can apply because we have still got some hanging baskets.
Oh, lovely. Anna, we'll be back with you throughout the morning. They're busy there already. What is it, only 6:30 in the morning?
I know. I'm in that unusual position where I'm actually hoping it rains.
Why?
Because we just had new grass laid in our back garden and already it's just starting to curl up, you know, in the corners where all the turnips
Yeah, but if
are
it
there.
rains and the kids go out there, it'll turn into a mud pie.
The kids aren't allowed out there. It's gorgeous sunny weather because we just had the grass laid. You're not. I know, it's hopeless, isn't it? It's the worst thing to have done.
Let's move on anyway. It's 40 years this week since Frank Sinatra recorded the classic track My Way, and it's still one of the world's most popular songs.
It is, but what's the secret of its enduring success? We've been investigating.
I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, my much more than this.
I did it my way.
It's
a classic.
For what is a man? What?
He had a fantastic voice, and some people suit certain songs, and that song with Saxonaut was probably perfect.
Hate it. Utterly loathe it.
It's very passionate, very emotional. I like it.
The record show. I took the blow and did it my
You know, they're actually trying to get us to sing.
Yeah.
Can
Go
you
on,
believe it?
guys.
They're saying,
you
sing.
do it. You do it.
No way. Not going to spoil that. It always gets the hairs going on the back of my neck when you hear someone doing it well and then you can hear it ruined.
Yes.
Very
so
easy.
we're not going to ruin
Not
it.
gonna do
Oh,
that.
is it because it just keeps going? It goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up and then it goes. Is it the way that it's written? What is it about My Way that's made it such a favourite? And what does make a classic tune? You, of course, have your favourites. We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us in all the usual ways by phone, email and text.
And while we're on the subject of music, we'll be talking about the demise of the independent record store a little bit later on. The numbers have been halved in more than 4 years. So scenes like that, little shops where you could go in and browse and pick some vinyl, few and far between now.
Firestarter by Prodigy.
Was that what was being...
No, that's my favourite.
Oh, I see.
So analyse that.
Yeah, we'll think about that.
I'll
during
sing
the
it to
morning.
you on the break. Time
Got
now
it.
to get the news where you are. We'll see you in a moment.
Good morning. A loan shark and his girlfriend from Cheshire, who squeezed hundreds of thousands of pounds out of terrified customers, will be sentenced today. Paul Nicholson and his girlfriend Tracy Rogers were found guilty of more than 20 charges relating to their loan shark business. Police found £26,000 in cash when they raided the couple's mansion in Delamere. The funeral takes place today of a Liverpool man murdered in Spain 3 years ago. A service for Gary Dunn will be held at midday at the city's Anglican Cathedral. He was stabbed to death in Malaga in 2006, but it took his parents 3 years to get his body back because of Spanish laws. Job cuts at local newspapers across Greater Manchester have been described as a threat to local democracy. The publishers of the Manchester Evening News and 22 weekly titles in the North West are cutting 150 posts and closing the editorial offices of newspapers across the region. Speaking in the Commons, the MP for Stockport says it's worrying.
60 local newspapers out of 1,300 closed last year, according to the Newspaper Society, and we do not want our weekly newspapers in the Manchester area to end up suffering the same fate. Local newspapers like the Stockport Express, which has been going since 1889, play an absolutely essential role at the heart of their communities. This is because they are written by journalists who are constantly out and about and know the local area and its people well.
Lake District businesses and residents are considering how to improve Bowness Bay. It's part of a consultation process for the whole Windermere area, which could result in improvements to the quality of buildings and transport. Ideas so far include extending the water bus network and developing a round lake cycleway. Football now, and Manchester City are through to their first European quarter-final in 30 years after a 4-3 penalty shootout win following a 2-0 defeat by Aalborg in Denmark last night. Meanwhile, Liverpool and holders Manchester United will find out their Champions League quarter-final opponents later today. Rugby, and two of Super League's slow starters go head-to-head tonight when Salford host Wigan at the Willows. The City Reds have had a difficult return to the top flight, winning just one of their first 5 games. But they put their troubles behind them earlier this week on a family fun night, where the players, their families and coaching staff relaxed together in the hope of improving on-field fortunes.
We just feel that if things are good at home, then they tend to be good in the workplace, and you can provide a comfortable working environment. People turn up ready to work, they want to be at work, and if we can do our little bit to support that, we think that's important. I think the opportunities for us to get together are limited, so the times that we can do it, I think we need to cherish and we need to make the most of it.
And the weather. Some cloud over the Wirral and Cheshire, clearer further north. Clouds slowly clearing, then everywhere will be sunny and rather warm with a high of 12. Tonight dry and mostly clear, with temperatures quickly falling to allow a slight frost. Overnight patches of low cloud may arrive, mainly along the Cumbrian coast, with a low of 0 Celsius. There are no major travel problems. We're back in half an hour.
Good morning, watching Breakfast with Charlie State and Susanna Reid.
Lots more to come on the programme this morning. The government comes under fire yet again for its handling of the Northern Rock affair. We'll talk to the Business Secretary, Peter Mandelson. We'll also ask him how he plans to save Britain's ailing car industry.
Maybe we should ask him what Gordon Brown's like as a boss. There are conflicting ideas over whether nice or nasty managers get the best results. We're going to be talking about that later with Tim Campbell, one of the winners from the BBC's Apprentice. Give us an insight into what Alan Sugar's like as well.
Yeah, and the actor and pop star Jason Donovan is bringing the outback to the West End by joining the cast of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. He'll be here to tell us all about that. That's just after 9 o'clock this morning.
Now
I bet he's sung My Way a few times.
You're right.
He must have done.
Now, let's bring you up to date with the news at 6:30. It has been revealed that the struggling bank Northern Rock continued with high-risk lending even after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
Yes, a report by the spending watchdog. The National Audit Office also says the government knew as early as 2004 that it wasn't properly prepared to cope if banks like the Rock got into trouble, but failed to make it any kind of priority.
Another of the government's flagship hospitals has been heavily criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff. Ministers say they're confident the problems will now be resolved. It comes after a damning report on conditions at Stafford Hospital earlier this week.
The American House of Representatives has voted to impose a 90% tax on bonuses given to employees of companies which have been bailed out by the taxpayer. It comes after widespread public anger about a multi-million-dollar bonus package paid to workers in the struggling insurance company AIG, which was rescued using public money.
President Obama made an unusual appearance on a primetime US chat show last night. Speaking to Jay Leno, he joked about some of the people he's having to work with now he's in charge.
I do think in Washington, it's a little bit like American Idol, except everybody is Simon Cowell.
Wow.
And just a few hours after charming American television audiences, it emerged the president has recorded a video message to the people of Iran, calling for an end to the decades of distrust between the two countries.
Broadway theatres dimmed their lights last night in tribute to the actress Natasha Richardson. Over the years, she performed in numerous theatre productions there, and her family, including her sister Jolie and her husband Liam Neeson, were joined by other actors to pay tribute to the actress who died after a skiing accident in Canada this week.
There are concerns that an earthquake in the Pacific Ocean will only increase the amount of lava and ash currently pouring out of a volcano in the area. No one is thought to have been injured by the quake, but the eruption has thrown huge clouds of ash into the air, which are destroying wildlife and vegetation off the coast of Tonga.
And those are the main stories this morning. Coming up later on, should people with dementia be tagged with a satellite tracking system? Former Coronation Street actress Sally Lindsay, whose grandmother had Alzheimer's, will be here in the studio to tell us what she thinks.
Now, though, at 6:32, let's see what the sport has in store. Morning, Mike.
Good morning. You've got me singing My Way now.
Oh, really?
It's
yes.
really so catchy, isn't it? You forget how memorable it is.
Later on,
in your head.
if you play your cards right, we'll give you a free go at it.
And
okay, fantastic.
Little rendition.
Big Mike.
Okay. Yeah, the Sex Pistols version or the Frank Sinatra version?
We'll see.
Manchester City have their own way of doing things, especially away from home, usually the difficult way. But in the end, doesn't matter, they're through. That's the main thing. What a close shave, though, for Manchester City. They are, though, into the quarter-finals of the UEFA Cup after beating Aalborg on penalties. Now, City lost their 2-0 first leg lead late on in this match. It was level then on aggregate. After extra time in Denmark, there was Shay Given, the hero, saving 2 kicks. The City won the shootout 4-3. Phew. So City waiting for that draw today. Just before that, for the second season running, 4 English clubs are in the hat for the Champions League quarter-finals draw. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester United will learn their fate at around 11 this morning. It's an open draw as well, so English clubs can all face each other now. Andy Murray will face Roger Federer in the semi-finals of the Indian Wells Masters 1000. The world number 4 came through a tough encounter against Ivan Lubicic of Croatia, winning 7-5, 7-6 to book his place in the last 8. Andrew Strauss is fit to captain England in today's first one-day game against the West Indies in Guyana, but Andrew Flintoff's hip injury looks likely to keep him out until the third game of the 5-match series. And back to winning ways, double Olympic gold medalist Rebecca Adlington made the pool her own to win the 800 metres freestyle title at the British Swimming Championships in Sheffield. The 20-year-old finished, look at this, way ahead of Jasmine Carlin and Carrie-Anne Payne. Now, the Olympic gold medalist sailor Paul Goodison was one of several people to pick up an MBE from Her Majesty the Queen yesterday. Goodison won gold in the laser class in Beijing last summer, but he doesn't really come from your typical sailing background. This week I've been home with him, sailing near the M1 in Yorkshire. You can't get much further from the sea than in Rotherham in South Yorkshire, but sailing gold medalist Paul Goodison is proof that growing up here doesn't have to restrict your sporting ambitions.
I think for me it was almost escapism. I'm very keen into my football, play football quite a lot, but dealing with when you lose and it's not your fault can sometimes be a problem, where out here on the water by myself, it's almost like me against the elements, against the competition.
Well, there are, you know, loads of clubs, sailing clubs at lakes like this inland, right across the UK, but to what extent do they really nurture your talent, bring on your skills, and even give you the potential to go to the Olympics?
I think you can go really high up just sailing inland on lakes very similar to this. I think I was sailing mainly inland and training inland until I was in my late teens and went to university in Southampton. And at that time I was still knocking around in the top few in the world. If you lean the boat away from you a little bit, the white rudder should be going straight down. That's good, just keep pointing at that buoy, keep looking forward.
These days, Paul Goodison trains at the National Sailing Academy at Weymouth and Portland, but this week he was back in Yorkshire on Pudney's Lake near Wakefield to help more urban sailors get their first taste of the water.
We thought we was going to tip off actually, thought we was going to blow over or something, but yeah, it's calm.
Seriously though, I thought it was going to be really boring, but it's not actually, it's alright, yeah.
Places like this really are key for people sailing inland. I mean, it's not just, you don't have to learn on the sea, you can come to places like this.
He has won gold.
It's a world away from the sea off China, where Paul Goodison won his gold medal, but trying to sail on a balmy, windless spring day in Yorkshire was a challenge on its own.
Like, the trick to the light wind sailing is guessing where the wind's coming from.
Yeah.
And trying to get there. So if you look on the water, you see just behind where the boat is now, it's a bit darker.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's actually breeze on the water.
Right. Just what does it mean to get the MBE?
It's just fantastic to be recognised. For me, the most special part was taking my parents and my grandma. For people like that, it is just fantastic to share in the celebrations.
No wonder he won gold and has now got an MBE, because there we are on a totally flat lake in Wakefield. He goes, "Sonny, look at that." I look across the water. What, a bird? No. He was looking at the flat water, change of colour, because that meant there was a wind coming. He could spot the wind.
No.
That's the skill of the top sailors.
The water changed colour?
Yeah.
Well, because a slight breeze was affecting it.
a slight ripple was coming over.
To the untrained eye...
And you could see it 3 minutes before it arrived. And then, sure enough, we were moving again 3 minutes later.
It must be very frustrating if you're that good at sailing and you don't have any wind.
No, but that, in a way it's more challenging like that. It's a good place to learn.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, yeah.
Right, thanks ever so much. We'll see you a little bit later on. Now, one of the greatest worries about caring for someone who has dementia is that they may wander off, perhaps get lost, but would it be right to fit them then with a tracking device to make sure that they never got lost?
A 2-year trial has just been done in Oxfordshire. In a moment we'll speak to the doctor who developed the idea, but first let's hear from someone who took part in the trial.
As far as I'm concerned, it gives me a peace of mind that I wouldn't otherwise have. It's not 100% reliable, so, you know, I can't sit back and do nothing, but it is a great deal better than not having it. And as far as he's concerned, it means that we don't have to fuss him. He can go out for his walk every day, exactly as normal. He, I think, forgets he's got it on him. And, you know, we don't have to try and restrain him at all. He has the freedom that he would have normally.
Well, Rupert McShane is the doctor who set up the trial, and sitting alongside him is the actress Sally Lindsay, whose grandmother suffered from dementia. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Thanks both for joining us. So, Dr. McShane, how would this work? Because a tagging system, I mean, it sounds like something that we already do with people who are convicted of crimes. How would it work for somebody who's suffering from dementia?
Well, essentially what they do is they carry a small device that's a combination of a mobile phone and a GPS system, and the GPS system works out where it is and then it sends the signal via mobile phone, so they carry it on them.
When you say carry it,
Yeah.
you mean that they're not actually tagged with it, they have to actually remember to take it with them?
They have to remember to take it with them, so they might put it in a pocket or in a bag, or it might be attached onto their clothing. So that's obviously an issue. You have to make sure that the patient's got it with them.
And Sue, we saw who's one of the people who took part in it. What was her situation? What was she having to deal with?
So she's having to deal with the fact that her husband goes out. He's a very keen walker, always has been, but he doesn't really understand that he's likely to get lost. And when he comes back after 24 hours, he'll sort of say, well, of course I was always going to come back. You know, what's the problem?
And Sally, your grandmother suffered with Alzheimer's, with dementia.
Yes.
She died, didn't she?
Yeah, she died after 5 years. She was, it was quite advanced, it was quite rapid hers, but there's other members of my family, sisters, who this would be great for, because they were completely able-bodied, completely together, especially mobile, and they were, you know, their mind was dying, but their body wasn't. So they used to go on lovely little trips out on their own, and nobody knew where they were. So for their own safety, I think this is the start of a fabulous idea, really.
And for those people, just give us an example of an occasion where, where something's happened. So this is just routine things. There maybe older members of the family going out shopping and then no one knows.
No, you can literally you can literally turn round and the Alzheimer's patient will have darted out the door and tried to go back to somewhere that they worked 25 years ago.
And that happened.
And start work
to you, your family?
There was occasions where we'd turn around and, Gran fell down the stairs a couple of times because we didn't know, we were literally in the kitchen and she was there. It's basically a mid-stages Alzheimer's. It's like having a fully adult toddler in a way, because they'll go and it's very concerning because of their safety.
Yeah, and Dr. Shane, so this, if that happened, a situation like that happened, Grandma's gone for a walk, she's been a long time, we can only presume that she's got a bit muddled and lost. How then can we track Grandma down? We use
so you have to log on to a website, and that can either be done through a mobile phone or through an ordinary PC. And now there's a dot on a map as to where they are, you hope. So it's not an absolute panacea. They're not always completely reliable, but the mobile phone network might go down, so it has to...
And did you find in your trials, those people who were asked to carry them, use them, did they object? Was there a bit of them that said, I'm fine? Well, in amongst some of the confusion that they're feeling, they might also be confused about being asked to do this.
People vary. Okay, and that's one of the issues, that it's important to try and make sure that the patient does consent to it. And frankly, if they really don't want to carry it, they'll put it down and it won't work.
Yeah, and Sally, how do you think your grandma or sisters would have thought about it? Because there is an issue of dignity for some people, isn't there? For those people who say, I'm not going to get lost.
There's dignity, but working with the Alzheimer's Society also, there's this massive issue of personal safety, I think, which overrides it. And I think if you're an early stage Alzheimer's, the absolute confusion you feel, I think anything would help, really. I'm actually a supporter of this.
I think the stigma side of it is a bit overplayed. You're going to enhance somebody's freedom, you're going to reduce the risk. And we had a patient whose wife was very anxious that if the neighbours got to hear about it, they would think that she was doing something wrong, and that's just adding to the burden.
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much for coming this morning and talking about it. I know there will be a lot of people watching this who'll have their own experiences and have their own views on this, so do please let us know if you've had thoughts and been through some of this.
And also people who want to know whether they can access one.
Yeah.
They're going to be widely available?
Yes, and I'm sure that'll get more widely available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks ever so much. 6:43, you're watching Breakfast from BBC News. Let's update you on our headlines this morning. It's been revealed Northern Rock lent millions of pounds in high-risk mortgages after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
Another hospital has been criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff.
Also coming up on Breakfast this morning.
We work hard. We play hard. Play hard, we should be working hard sometimes. Partly down to me, sure.
Which kind of boss is best? We're going to be finding out if the David Brent type, who's your mate, gets the best result, or whether you have to be a little bit nasty.
Let's get a look at the weather now with Alex. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Charlie. Nothing nasty about the weather. It's another beautiful day across the country. It's a bit of a chilly start, it has to be said. And there is some thicker cloud, particularly across parts of the Midlands, Northern England, South West England, Northern Ireland and Central Scotland. So for some, it is a bit of a grey start. But that cloud will tend to disappear. So by this afternoon, most of us will yet again be bathed in spring sunshine. It's a lovely sunny start to the day here across South East England. Manchester, Scotland also starting sunny, but there has been a touch of frost overnight. Temperatures now starting to rise up the right side of freezing thanks to that sunshine. The cloud you can see there tends to melt away through the day, so that by this afternoon the vast majority of us will have blue skies. Just a little bit of that cloud could linger close to the east coast of Scotland. Temperatures in Glasgow up to 12 Celsius once we've lost the early morning cloud. The cloud could be a little bit more persistent again through parts of North East England, but generally a sunnier day across Lincolnshire and East Anglia. Blue skies here for much of the day. Sunny day right along the south coast of England. A noticeable breeze blowing again across parts of Cornwall, particularly in the far west of Cornwall and across the Isles of Scilly. So feeling a bit chilly in the breeze here. Sunny skies for much of Wales, the cloud disappearing across the West Midlands by this afternoon. Maybe starting a bit cloudy in Northern Ireland, but again here that cloud will tend to disappear so that by 3 o'clock it's sunny skies. It'll be chilly if you're heading out this evening, however. Temperatures really will drop away. We will see a frost. That's the blue hue you can see there on the map. Temperatures in most towns and cities may just stay above freezing, but elsewhere we will be down below freezing. So a frosty start to the weekend, but another cracking day. Lots of sunshine for England and Wales, certainly staying dry and bright across eastern Scotland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland and to Northern Ireland, we will see a bit more cloud spilling in during Saturday, but still in the sunshine, feeling pretty good. By Sunday, it will be a bit cooler, I think, everywhere, but still those temperatures in the mid-teens, 12 or 13 possibly, but it will be getting a bit cooler during the course of the weekend. And also by Sunday, you can see there on the map, there's a little bit more in the way of cloud around. So it's not quite as gorgeous for Mothering Sunday on Sunday, but still a pretty good weekend ahead for most of us, and more sunshine today. Charlie and Susanna, it's back to you.
Thank you.
We're discussing this new map.
Yes, it's kind of an ultimate toy for nosy parkers, really. New online maps, just launched by Google, show crystal clear images of streets up and down the UK.
Yes, cars fitted with special cameras, filmed in 25 cities. There they are, and the pictures have been loaded onto the internet. They're designed to help people, well, plan journeys, check out new places. But there are fears that they could be a tool for burglars. You can move up and down streets, zoom right in to see tiny details. So let's see how it works in practice. We're going to talk now to Matt Britton from Google. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Well, as we talk, Matt, we're going to sort of conjure up one of the images now. And what we've got up here, as you'll see, is Wood Lane, obviously where we are based.
And Television Centre.
And we're in there somewhere. Now, explain, this is not a live picture. No. Straight away, this is recorded image.
Yes. We've taken literally tens of millions of images by driving up and down public streets in 25 cities around the UK, and then compose them together into panoramas that you can explore like this.
OK, so sitting here, I can sort of instruct it. I'm not actually doing this myself, but if we say, for example, let's pull back round. Can we turn back round and look the other way? That's TV Centre. So we can look at the front of TV Centre. There are people down there. Let's go in on this couple here, for example. Now,
poor unassuming couple there.
Drop down a bit. Now then, their faces have been blurred.
Yes. We built this in all of our products actually with privacy in mind, and it's really important to us that privacy is protected in these kind of products. So the product's all about streets, and what we use is digital technology to identify faces and then blur them. And it works pretty well, so that we expect that sort of 99.9% of faces are blurred. There are some things like billboards with faces that are blurred on them, for example.
Yes, so it's blurred things accidentally that might not need to be blurred. But in some cases, I mean, it is fascinating, and it is impossible not to look at your own street and your own house when you know how to get access to it. On my street, there were plenty of people whose faces were showing, and also vehicle registration numbers which were showing as well.
With faces... with them
Drop
showing.
down a little bit there and we can see if we can you go in on the number plate.
Yeah.
Now, is that one blurred there? Yeah. But a lot of people will say, I didn't want my picture shown on the internet, particularly possibly doing what I happen to be doing that day in that location, and I don't want details. I don't want my house to be available for anybody to see on the internet either.
So the faces, as I say, faces are all blurred, number plates are all blurred. If you happen to see an image where the technology hasn't picked it up, you won't. In the bottom left of each Street View screen is a little thing saying "Report a concern." If you click that, it allows you to say, "I found a face that's not blurred," or "I found something that should be blurred. Please, can you change it?" Or if you, as you say, "I don't want my house to appear," just tell us, and we will take it down.
What? So in a row of terraces, you'll blank out one house?
Yes.
It almost draws more attention to it, then, doesn't it?
You know, this has been launched in lots of other countries around the world already, including in the US, and we find that very few people ask for that to happen. But if you are concerned and you want that to happen, we'll do it for you.
What actually is the point of it? I mean, what is fundamentally, what's the point of being able to look at streets? I mean, is there a real practical application beyond? I mean, you can see on the face of it, quite good for burglars. Or quite, I mean, they could see nice streets where they might think there's expensive cars, for example. So we look down a street and see a whole bunch of cars parked there. I don't know.
We talked to the Metropolitan Police, amongst others, when we're preparing to launch this product, and actually there's absolutely no evidence or intelligence that this leads to any kind of rise in burglaries whatsoever. We think it's a tool that allows you to explore places you might want to visit, think about routes to work or school, running routes, etc. As with lots of our products, you know, it's free to consumers, and businesses can take it and build it into their websites. So if you're an estate agent or a travel business, it's a fantastic tool to promote and help people explore places.
Matt, then we must leave it, but I'm sure as we look at Ramsey Lane, Edinburgh in Scotland, it's unnecessary to point that detail out, wasn't it? Behind us. You can email us to let us know what you think.
Yes, maybe have a look at your own street and say whether you're comfortable with the camera, because you can turn it in and look pretty much through your window, can't you?
Can't look through people's windows.
Well, I mean, do it. Have a go. I mean, have a go at home and see what you make of it.
You could see through that doorway. Thanks very much indeed, Matt. Perhaps you think it's a fantastic idea. Perhaps you are concerned about the fact that your property might be on the internet. It's not every city yet, is it?
Aaron, what have you got for us this morning?
Well, hi guys again. Yeah, we're going to continue talking about this report by the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office. The report into, of course, Northern Rock, because it found that the struggling bank continued to give out these high-risk loans, mortgages, these 125% mortgages, even after it had been bailed out by the bank, became nationalised. We owned it. The report also found out that the government knew as early as 2004 that it wasn't properly prepared to cope with the bank getting into financial difficulties, but did nothing about it. I know most of us are going, why not? Let's see if we can get some answers, because a familiar face joins us, Ralph Silver, a banking expert from the Tower Group. Ralph, good to see you. Let's start with that, because many will say, hang on, beggars belief. The Treasury, the Bank of England, the Financial Services Authority knew 5 years ago that they perhaps couldn't cope. Why didn't they put measures?
Nobody had any anticipation that the economy was going to take such a nosedive as it did. And everyone believed that the problem was actually only going to last about 2 or 3 months. So they didn't believe that they were going to have to actually save the bank for the long term. It was a short-term solution, and that's why they did things the way they did it.
And of course, this report also very strong criticism about Northern Rock continuing to put out these loans 6 months after. Why didn't the government step in and say, hang on, you can't do these loans?
And that's a valid point, but the reality is they had 12 months to write this report, and the government had 12 hours to make these decisions. It was very fast. They had to make them very, very quickly. And the other thing is I challenge the premise of this report. The premise of this report is that the government was trying to save Northern Rock. They weren't. They were trying to save the British banking system. Northern Rock was, in fact, the symptom, not the disease. And that's why they did things as quickly as they did.
Well, many will ask then, if the measures were, if they did put measures in place, would we see anything different then? I mean,
the answer is no. Even if they did a lot of analysis, they had to save the British banking system. So regardless of the state of Northern Rock, they still had to save it to make sure that the rest of the industry survived.
Well, Ralph Silver from Tower Group, much appreciated for your insight there. Thanks very much for joining us on Breakfast. That's it. I'll have more business news next hour. I'll see you then.
Yes, Aaron, thank you. And we're talking to Peter Mandelson, the Business Secretary, a little later this morning.
Now, hunting down old vinyl records in dingy record stores was once a rite of passage for many teenagers. But the digital revolution means those shops are now under threat.
As new figures show, there are just over 300 independent record stores left in the UK. Breakfast Tim Muffett's been finding out if there's any way to save them.
They were once a feature on almost every high street. Independent record shops. Free from the large retail chains, they could stock whatever music they liked. The more unusual, the better. Shops like Raves from the Grave in Frome in Somerset. It stocks thousands of CDs and records, but like many independent stores, it's facing tough challenges from digital downloads and online retailers. Now, the rate at which independent music shops are closing really is pretty dramatic. According to the latest figures from the Entertainment Retailers Association, in 2005 there were 734 of them across the UK. Now, well, the figures come right down. In fact, there are just 305 left. They've more than halved in just over 4 years. Hello, Graham, how are you doing?
Hi, Tim.
Good to see you.
God, it's an amazing place, isn't it?
Graham Jones loves shops like this. He fears we could soon lose a unique part of British life. He's actually visited all 305 remaining independents to research his book Last Shop Standing, which looks into their unique appeal.
Everybody's got a memory of a record shop. Everybody can remember their first record or the first CD where they bought, and it's always in a record shop. If we carry on at this rate, there won't be a single record shop left in the country in 3 years' time.
But there is hope. This is Pure Groove in London, one of a number of independents which is doing well thanks to a complete overhaul. You can buy drinks here. It's got its own website, Band Play Live. People often come here just to relax.
At the dawn of the independent record shop was, experience was kind of key. It was all about kind of creating a kind of community, and I think we've tried to kind of make a kind of contemporary version of that.
For Mr. Jam, who's a DJ on Radio 1 and 1Xtra, the decline of the record shop has had one big positive effect. Things are now much easier for new bands.
If you're a struggling artist, rather than you having to go and find a pressing plant, press up your 20 or 57-inch vinyl and going round to the record shops and hoping that the buyer or the manager of the record shop is in and that they'll buy one off you and then they'll try and sell it to other people. You don't have to do that. You can go, you can have your finished product, you can put it online, you can create your own website.
The collapse of Woolworths and Zavvi has been a good thing for independent music shops. Many have reported a rise in sales since Christmas. There's simply fewer places to buy CDs. So just as things are looking bleak, the recession may have thrown those that remain a lifeline. Tim Muffet, BBC News.
We're just reminiscing about the first records we
Do you
bought. Yeah, I think the first one was White Lines by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. But I have a horrible feeling actually the first one might have been Lilac Wine by Elkie Brooks.
Yeah, it was
as a present from my mum.
Or it was something like Grandad.
No,
Remember
I
Grandad?
didn't buy Grandad. What are you trying to say about me? It was a lovely record. Grandad was a lovely record.
Let's go to Anne Adams in Manchester now. Tell us the difference about this year's Britain in Bloom contest.
Well, it's supposed to be one of the biggest horticultural events in Europe, but this year they're hoping to attract a more kind of urban gardener like these guys behind me. Find out more later on, but first the news where you are.
Good morning. A loan shark and his girlfriend from Cheshire, who squeezed hundreds of thousands of pounds out of their terrified customers, will be sentenced today. Paul Nicholson and his girlfriend Tracy Rogers were found guilty of more than 20 charges relating to their loan shark business. The police found £26,000 in cash when they raided the couple's mansion in Delamere. The funeral takes place today of a Liverpool man murdered in Spain 3 years ago. A service for Gary Dunn will be held at the city's Anglican Cathedral. He was stabbed to death in Malaga in 2006, but it took his parents 3 years to get his body back because of Spanish laws. Job cuts at local newspapers across Greater Manchester have been described as a threat to local democracy. The publishers of the Manchester Evening News and 22 weekly titles in the North West are cutting 150 posts and closing the editorial offices of newspapers across the region. Speaking in the Commons, the MP for Stockport says it's worrying.
60 local newspapers out of 1,300 closed last year, according to the Newspaper Society, and we do not want our weekly newspapers in the Manchester area to end up suffering the same fate. Local newspapers like the Stockport Express, which has been going since 1889, play an absolutely essential role at the heart of their communities. This is because they are written by journalists who are constantly out and about and know the local area and its people well.
A scheme's been launched in Greater Manchester to try to reduce the numbers of road accidents footballers are involved in. Manchester City is hosting the event. Foreign players can get more information on British driving laws, and footballers from League Two youth teams right up to the Premiership's top scorers can attend driving courses. It follows a series of crashes involving high-profile players. And Manchester City are through to their first European quarter-final in 30 years after a 4-3 penalty shootout win following a 2-0 defeat by Aalborg in Denmark last night. Meanwhile, Liverpool and holders Manchester United will find out their Champions League quarter-final opponents later today. There are no major travel problems to report at the moment, so here's Heather with the weather.
Thanks, Carol. Good morning. Well, there may well be some mist and some fog around where you are first thing this morning, but once that goes, we're going to see some sunshine as we go through the day, and we're in for another pleasant spring-like day. Plenty of sunshine around once that mist lifts. It's pretty cold to start with. We had a bit of a frost overnight, but temperatures today will get to around 12 Celsius. That's not quite as mild as it was yesterday, but nevertheless in the sunshine, feeling very pleasant. Now tonight, a similar night to last night. We will see a bit of frost here and there as temperatures dip down to 1s and 2s, maybe a 0 here or there. We'll also see possibly a little bit more mist forming. Now tomorrow morning we're off to a chilly, cold start. However, it's a bright start, dry and bright with a good deal of sunshine. Now during the afternoon we're going to get more cloud pushing in, but temperatures again we'll get to around 12 Celsius. That cloud with us in the afternoon, and we're going to lose quite a bit of the sunshine as we go through the afternoon. Sunday, largely cloudy, I'm afraid. 1 or 2 bright or sunny spells. Top temperatures around 10 Celsius, so a little bit cooler. And the start of next week, not quite as good, cloudy with some rain. Carol.
Thanks, Heather. That's it from us. We're back at 7:25.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Charlie State and Susanna Reid.
Revealed how Northern Rock kept funding risky mortgages even after it was propped up by the taxpayer.
£800 million worth of loans were handed out. Many of those householders are now in negative equity.
Good morning. It's Friday, the 20th of March.
Also ahead on Breakfast, shortages of beds, delays in admissions and poorly trained staff. A leading children's hospital is accused of a catalogue of failings.
After Josef Fritzl is jailed for life, we ask if his abused family can ever enjoy a normal life.
And we're talking this morning about bosses. Do you want your boss to be your friend, like David Brent, or does a nasty boss get the best out of you?
Discussing that later, and we're also having a look at the weather. Alex is there this morning.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Another bit of a chilly start. There is some thicker cloud around as well, but it should clear away. And then most of us will again be bathed in spring sunshine by this afternoon, and it should last into the weekend. All the weather details in 15 minutes.
Alex, we'll see you then. Thank you. Good morning. First, our main story. It's been revealed that the struggling bank, Northern Rock, continued with high-risk lending even after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
Yes, a report by the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, also says the government knew as early as 2004 that it wasn't properly prepared to cope if banks got into trouble, but failed to make it a priority.
The queues of panicked depositors at branches of Northern Rock marked the beginning of Britain's banking crisis. In September 2007, the Bank of England stepped in to bail out the Rock, and it was nationalised 5 months later. Today's report said that was the right decision, but it has plenty of criticisms to make about the Treasury's dealings with the bank before and after its demise. £800 million of high-risk mortgages were given out after the bank got support from the taxpayer. The report says the Treasury was severely stretched and underprepared for the crisis. And the government spent £79 million on advisory fees to financial advisors during the nationalisation of the bank. The National Audit Office report also says the Treasury realised it might struggle to deal with a failing bank back in 2004, but didn't make it a priority. But it's the Rock's continued high-risk lending after the government stepped in that has angered the opposition.
I'm surprised and shocked. I think the government, when it saw that it needed to bail out Northern Rock, should have stepped in immediately to stop the 125% mortgage lending, which was precisely the sort of reckless lending that had gotten Northern Rock into trouble in the first place.
The Treasury denies being badly prepared for the Rock's problems and says lending was necessary to keep the business going. But the Conservatives and Liberal Democrats have said this report demonstrates government incompetence and complacency. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
Another of the government's flagship hospitals has been heavily criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff. It comes after a damning report on conditions at Stafford Hospital earlier this week. Our reporter Fiona Trott is in Birmingham. Tell us more, Fiona.
Well, because of the problems at this hospital, around 70 children a month were being sent elsewhere, and there was a lack of basic equipment, so visiting consultants had to bring their own. And today's report raises questions about specialist hospitals and whether or not there are enough paediatricians to go round, because clearly this one was struggling to cope. And it also raises questions about foundation status, because like Stafford, this hospital isn't line managed by the NHS, and so there are fewer inspections. Over 140,000 children are treated here each year. And admissions are on the increase. That had put a strain on its services, but today's report says the patients deserved better.
What we've seen here is a trust which is actually not able to cope with the demands on its services. This has resulted in delays, some patients being transferred elsewhere. The quality of care hasn't always been what it should.
So here's what the Commission has told the Trust to do. Make sure patients are admitted and treated more quickly. Provide proper support staff for surgeons. And improve communication with consultants so that problems can be identified earlier. They sound like basic hospital rules, but the Trust says the nature of its work means they can be overlooked.
Clearly, I would rather that none of this had ever happened, but the fact is, in any complex organisation which deals with the sort of children that we have to deal with, problems will arise.
It's the second foundation trust to be criticised by the Healthcare Commission this week. It says Stafford Hospital's emergency care was so poor that 400 people died needlessly. Government officials are now carrying out their own investigation. That's not needed here. But, like Stafford, questions are still being asked about why these issues were not raised sooner. Well, one of the people whose job it was to tackle those issues, Paul O'Connor, the chief executive, resigned 2 weeks ago. But today, the hospital says it's now working on a model of care to clarify who does what and what their expectations are.
Fiona Trott reporting. Thanks very much, Fiona.
People may soon be allowed to take terminally ill patients abroad for assisted suicides. The former Health Secretary, Patricia Hewitt, is tabling an amendment to a bill going through Parliament under which people could take terminally ill relatives abroad to suicide clinics and not face prosecution when they get back. Opponents say any change would have tragic consequences.
Broadway theatres dimmed their lights last night in tribute to the actress Natasha Richardson. Over the years, she performed in numerous theatre productions there. Her family, including her sister Jolie and her husband Liam Neeson, were joined by other actors to pay tribute to the actress, who died after a skiing accident in Canada this week.
President Obama made an unusual appearance on a primetime US chat show last night, speaking to Jay Leno, who joked about some of the people he's having to work with now he's in charge.
I do think in Washington, it's a little bit like American Idol, except everybody is Simon Cowell.
Wow. Wow. That's rough.
Well, just a few hours after charming American television audiences, it emerged the president had recorded a video message to the people of Iran calling for an end to the decades of distrust between the two countries.
Talks are still going on to try to end a stalemate, which has seen Edinburgh's most famous road closed for the last 3 weeks. It's because of a row over a new tram network being laid on Princes Street. Raymond Buchanan reports.
It's a view that helps define this city. Princes Street divides old Edinburgh from the Georgian splendour of the new town. It's the heart of Scotland's capital. But a closer look reveals a building site, not a tourist attraction. What's more, there's very little building going on. Tracks for a new tram system were due to be laid here, but a dispute between the contractors and the Transport Authority stopped work. That was 3 weeks ago, and there's still no sign of a resolution. So Edinburgh's centre lies idle and ugly, just in time for the new holiday season.
There's a lot of construction right here in the middle of town. It's kind of shocking.
This is the welcoming year.
to Scotland. Welcome to Scotland. Welcome to a disaster zone.
The signs in this mock tram say it all. The project has stalled, and it's left many in Edinburgh wondering if it's all worth the bother.
There are concerns that an earthquake in the Pacific Ocean will increase the amount of lava and ash currently pouring out of a volcano in the area. No one is thought to have been injured by the quake, but the eruption has thrown huge clouds of ash into the air, which are destroying wildlife and vegetation off the coast of Tonga.
And those are the main stories this morning. Coming up a little later, we'll be finding out why the Frank Sinatra classic song My Way is still such a favourite 4 decades after it was first recorded.
9 minutes past 7.
Too few beds, not enough operating theatres or trained staff. That's been the situation at Birmingham Children's Hospital, according to the Healthcare Commission.
It is the second flagship hospital in a week to come under fire for poor standards of care. So let's discuss this with Nigel Edwards. He is from the NHS Confederation. Very good morning to you. People will be very worried, 2 in a week.
We've managed to create an impression that there's a real problem in the NHS generally. The NHS is a huge organisation. It's got 1.4 million staff. There's 1 million people treated every 24 hours. So within such a big organisation, things will from time to time go wrong. The Healthcare Commission, which is the regulator that looks at these things, has been saving up reports. So unfortunately, we seem to be getting a bit of a glut of these stories at the moment.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate impression, but it is an accurate one, isn't it? And it's going to lead people to feel a loss of trust, a loss of faith, and wonder what on earth might be happening at their local hospital.
Well, I hope it's not an accurate one of the whole NHS. I mean, you can't really judge an organisation of the scale and the size of the NHS with the large number of hospitals it's got from 2 cases. They're 2 quite different cases too. The problems are quite different, and Birmingham Children seems to be experiencing what a lot of specialist hospitals are, which is, specialist care is often better care, so there's a higher demand, and they're finding more patients arriving. But I think people should not be alarmed. This. In these places, in mid-staffs, there's clearly been a problem with people taking their eye off the ball of the basics of care, and people are really aware of the importance of that.
So you say that at Birmingham in particular, it's experiencing extremely high demand. I mean, are you saying that these specialist hospitals can't cope?
No, that's not quite the case. As medicine's changing, particularly...
But if they can't serve the high demand, then they can't cope, can they?
I think if you look at the report, what they've been finding over the last couple of years is that the number of patients who would previously have been treated in local hospitals are getting referred to these specialist hospitals, which means you can actually give the patients better care, but it's taken them some time to adapt. I think that my message to you would be that the NHS has improved enormously. I kind of measure partly the NHS's state by how often I sit here or opposite John Humphrys, and there's clearly been a great improvement. The thing that I think worries people and worries the people who manage hospitals is from time to time we get these stories where people have been perhaps sometimes taking their eye off the basics of care.
Well, people don't want to hear these stories. I mean, for instance, the Healthcare Commission said at Birmingham the response to safety concerns was slower than ideal. Issues were raised but not properly or rapidly addressed over a period of several months. Senior staff had met managers last June to discuss their concerns about standards of care, and it wasn't until that appeared in a newspaper that investigation was ordered. Now, this is why I wonder whether people might feel a loss of trust and wonder what's happening locally, because those issues, when they come up, are simply not being addressed quickly enough, and patients' care is at risk, which is just avoidable and unacceptable.
I think those are really good points. A couple of things to say. If your local hospital is a foundation trust, you can join it as a member and you can get access to a lot of the information that will allow you as a patient to understand these things. One of the key responsibilities of anyone managing a hospital, the doctors and nurses and the managers who are responsible for this, is these basics of care. And I can't guarantee you that in an organisation with 1.4 million staff of the scale of complexity, I don't know if people understand just how complex these organisations are. Even a relatively small hospital like Mid-Staffs is the biggest employer in the area. Leeds Hospitals, for example, employs half the number of staff that Woolworths did.
So we just have to accept that care is not going to be perfect.
People have really got to try their best, but we've got huge organisations full of people doing hazardous and highly complicated things, and from time to time it's not always going to go well, but people really do take this seriously.
Nigel Edwards from the NHS Confederation, thanks for your time this morning.
Time now is 13 minutes past 7. Coming up on the programme today, Embracing the good life, Clarissa Dixon Wright will be here to tell us how we can all become a little bit more self-sufficient.
And Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, prepares to take the West End by storm. We're going to be asking its star, the one and only Jason Donovan, how he's coping on stage in high heels. Who knows what Alex is wearing?
I was just going to say, follow that, Alex. What are you wearing today?
I would be wearing my heels, but because I'm on the grass, I think they'd sink in. So today, just the wellies today. In fact, it's a beautiful start to the day. The sun is shining once more. For some, it's a bit of a grey start. There is some thicker cloud, particularly across the Midlands, parts of northern England, Northern Ireland and the central belt of Scotland. But if you do have the cloud right now, it will disappear so that by this afternoon, most of us, again, will be bathed in spring sunshine. It's a little bit chilly first thing. We've had a touch of frost overnight, especially across Scotland where we've had the clearer skies. You can see there on the map where we've got the shading, that's where we've got that cloud. It's a bit misty, it's a bit grey first thing, but that cloud gradually gets hoovered up as we go through the day so that by this afternoon, the vast majority seeing the blue skies once more. Parts of the east coast of Scotland could just stay a little bit misty. As a result, it may be a bit cooler here, but 12 the high in Glasgow with some sunshine. Parts of northeast England also could hang on to that cloud until the early afternoon. And again, along the east coast, it might just stay a bit misty, but basically a much brighter day across Lincolnshire and East Anglia than we had yesterday. Lots of sunshine here. Sunny skies right along the south coast of England. A bit of a strong breeze blowing through parts of Cornwall. Feeling a bit chilly in that wind across West Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly in particular. Bit of a grey start in East Wales, but that cloud will disappear. Lots of sunshine here, and the cloud first thing across Northern Ireland also should be disappearing. So the whole of Northern Ireland bathed in sunshine by 3 o'clock. Now, if you're going out this evening, well, be prepared for things to turn a bit chilly. Temperatures dropping sharply overnight tonight. That blue you can see on the map, that is a touch of frost. Temperatures in most towns and cities just about staying above freezing, but it will be a frosty start in rural areas to the weekend. But a gorgeous day. Lots of sunshine for England and Wales, staying dry and bright in eastern Scotland. For the west across Scotland and across Northern Ireland, a bit more in the way of clouds spilling in. Maybe 1 or 2 spots of rain, but for most, a fine day on Saturday. Should be a decent day on Sunday, but after we've been spoiled by all this sunshine, you'll notice more cloud around on Sunday, so it won't be quite as gorgeous, perhaps. And as a result, it will be a little bit cooler as well, the breeze picking up. So feeling a bit chillier by Sunday, but basically a pretty good-looking weekend and more sunshine to come today. Back to you, T.
Alex, thank you very much.
16 minutes past 7. Now, he's been dubbed the monster of Amstetten. Joseph Fritzl will see out the rest of his life in jail for holding his daughter prisoner and abusing her. During her 24 years of imprisonment, she gave birth to 7 children.
So was Joseph Fritzl simply born evil, or did he develop mental problems that made him carry out such grotesque crimes? With us now is the Independent's Deborah Orr, the Dr. David Nias, who is a forensic clinical psychologist. Good morning to both of you.
Morning.
Morning.
Deborah, can I start with you? I know you've written and thinking a lot about this case. Joseph Fritzl, how do you characterise him? Where does he sit in this idea of born evil, if you like?
Well, it's difficult to say unless you're around at his birth, really, doing a brain scan, aren't you? I mean, I tend to believe that we're a mixture of nature and nurture, and that, yes, of course, some people are born with a greater propensity or predisposition towards aberrant behaviour, but I think that it would be unhelpful to try to go around dividing the world up into sort of good and evil people from the very beginning.
Well, Dr. David Nice, let's just examine that idea. I mean, is evil something that is nurtured, or a failure to nurture leads to an evil person, or are people simply born with the wiring wrong?
Yes, it's as if people are pre-programmed to develop in certain ways. So, for example, if someone is born with an incapacity to develop a conscience, then they are going to have monumental problems.
How do we know if somebody is born like that?
Well, these sort of offenders, they do lack things like empathy. They don't have normal emotions. So they're putting on an act all their life. So from an early age, they learn to con people, to take advantage. They're excessively egocentric, so that they want the world to revolve around them.
And that is a nature thing. That is something to do with the wiring of the brain, rather than, I know that during the trial he blamed his upbringing and the treatment he'd had at the hands of his mother.
Yes, because the counter-argument is other people with an appalling upbringing, they respond positively. So it really does seem the starting point of what you're born with is the major influence.
Deborah, I just wonder how much of, I know that, you know, this word monster, it is applied sometimes when we have these extraordinary cases. I'm thinking of sort of Fred and Rose West, for example. Often those words are bandied around. And do you think that's to do with us? It's kind of coping mechanism, that if we attach the label to it, it sort of puts it in a special category that we almost don't have to think about. They're just monsters.
Well, I think if we listen to what David is saying, if David is saying that some people are just born that way, then clearly those are people and they are born that way and they're not monsters, they're human beings. And some human beings, if some human beings come out that way, they're still human beings, and I don't think it helps to say they're a monster. Fritzl was, you know, his crimes were absolutely appalling, but we see over and over again people banding together, entire nations banding together to commit appalling crimes against each other. And every time we say we can't understand this, never again, Rwanda, China, Mugabe now. There are a lot of these born evil people around, and you know, when they get together in a group, they can create a lot of damage. So maybe we should look for ordinary people instead of monsters when we're watching out for that kind of behaviour.
It's been a very depressing trial for people watching, of course, and lots of people want to find some sort of redemptive hope in this whole experience, hoping that the daughter and her children can rebuild their lives from now on. I mean, what hope is there that they can have some sort of life approaching normality at this stage?
Yes, the children are normally very adaptable, so that there is good hope for the children that they will enjoy their new life, their new experiences. It's more of a problem for adults. They have to come to terms with how they've lost part of their life, so they are vulnerable to develop what we would call an adjustment disorder. So a lot of counselling and support is likely to be needed.
David, Deborah?
Going on, yeah.
Thank you both very much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is 7:20 and time to go back to the Stock Exchange and see Aaron again.
Morning again. You know, earlier this morning I was showing you this article in the Times. You can't see it, but it's all about the that announcement yesterday, the British International Motor Show being scrapped for 2010. The only time it's ever been scrapped in the past, well, because of the world wars. And there's no surprises. This car industry, or the car industry, facing the biggest crisis it's ever faced in its history. We should see more confirmation on that today, because we're expecting the latest production figures for the UK for February, and they are expected to show another big fall in the production. That's off the back of the January slump of 60% that we saw. Now, that all said, according to some industry watchers, they're telling us that this Monday, the 23rd of March, best day ever to buy a new car. That, of course, is if you've got the money, but apparently the dealers are going to be giving some very big incentives. But we also know that the British government is considering a cash incentive to give to you to scrap your old car, buy a newer model. We've seen that happening on the continent, for example, in Germany, and being quite successful. So others out there might say, listen, you might want to hang off on that, because we could see that incentive by the government announced in the April budget. Quick look at what we're expecting the FTSE, expecting to open lower today because Wall Street closed lower. And I'll be back in 30 minutes to ask the question, is owning a franchise a safer option than setting up your own business? Some of the numbers are looking pretty good out there. I'll have two guests with me in the studio back then in about 30 minutes. I'll see you then.
Good, Aaron, thank you very much for that. Just a reminder, we'll be speaking to Lord Mandelson just after 8 o'clock this morning. He's up in Sunderland at the Nissan factory, and we'll be talking to him about a number of things, including car manufacturing and, of course, other things to do with Northern Rock, the economy.
Indeed. Now, though, we're going to talk picture-perfect villages, because all over the place they're dusting off their hanging baskets in readiness for the annual Britain in Bloom competition.
But this year the contest is about more than just flowers. Breakfast Anna Adams is in Manchester and can explain more for us. Anna, where are you exactly? What's happening?
Hi, Charlie. Yes, I'm in a garden here at Hume. It might look like a normal garden. It's got primulas and all the sort of things that go with having a traditional garden, but it's actually in a car park in the middle of a housing estate. So it's slightly different. And this is exactly the type of gardens that Britain in Bloom are hoping to attract to this year's competition. But it hasn't always been quite so modern.
How many kinds of sweet flowers grow in an English country garden?
Britain in Bloom, the competition every village and market town wanted to win. It was all hanging baskets and floral roundabouts, the very essence of Middle England.
nightingale. There is joy in the spring when the birds begin to sing in an English country garden.
But now, 45 years on, the competition's had a facelift, and it's hoping to transform inner cities and attract a new breed of gardener. Kids at this after-school club in Charlestown and Manchester are hoping their backyard can become a prize-winning garden. And while they might not be the most experienced gardeners, they're certainly keen.
Yeah, like that. It's fun but a bit messy. It's really fun because it gets you exercise and it gets you big and strong. Messy and fun, but you get to wash your hands anyway.
Residents of this tower block down the road are also competing for the prize. They're working with young offenders to create a communal garden out of wasteland.
No, that manhole covered in.
Nick, a convicted burglar, is using his community service to help.
It's outstanding the amount of people that you meet and the projects that you do. At the end of, like I said, this just looks blank at the moment, but once it's done, you'd be amazed with yourself. It makes you feel a lot better as well, putting stuff back into the community.
RHS Britain and Bloom has always been more than just hanging baskets and roundabouts. It's been about communities. But this year we're changing the criteria on judging to make sure that we reinforce that.
It's already one of the biggest horticultural events in Europe, with more than 2 million people taking part. And this year could be even bigger, because you don't have to have a hanging basket to take part. Well, this garden here is a perfect example of this. It's run by volunteers from the community, and there's 100 people come down at the weekend to take part in this. There's herbs, there's eucalyptus, there's bamboo, there's all sorts of things going on here. Now, Peter Thompson, you've been living in the area for 9 years. Why is this garden so important?
Well, it's important that we're all working together as a community to make changes in the environment. I mean, when I moved here 9-10 years ago, basically it was more or less a concrete jungle in one respect. And, you know, what we want to try and do is to achieve a more greener environment and to bring the people together, and also to reduce the crime. And I think what we've done over the last 10 years, working very closely with the police and the community officers and things like that, basically, and the planting to the schemes on the front of the roads and things like that, have certainly brought down the crime rate, and the statistics are there to prove it.
So Britain in Bloom this year is going to be much more than just flowers. It is about what you say, the community. And if I don't know if we can just see down here, there's some plants that you planted here that are actually preventing crime. Tell us a bit about them there.
Exactly. That was a gated area at the commencement, you know, when we first moved in, and people were, you know, climbing over and this sort of thing. So we're putting blocks there of plants and things like that to basically to reduce that sort of thing. And, you know, as you go around the different roads here now, we have brought in more troughs, more planters, and we're planting them up with berberis and things like that, with spines and, you know, prickly sort of plants to stop people from climbing over the fences and things like that. And it really has achieved the goal that we're aiming for. And at the end of the day, it's not just, like I say, the Residents Association, it's actually the community, the people that are living in Hulme together now, you know, are actually respecting what we're doing, and, you know, they're enjoying what's there.
Peter, thanks very much for joining us.
Great,
As you can see, it's more than just a garden. It's a very modern kind of garden. But don't give up if you are a more traditional type of gardener, because there are still some hanging baskets out there.
Lovely, Anna. Thank you very much.
And coming up a little later on in the programme, their numbers have more than halved in the last 4 years. Is it the end of the road for the old-fashioned record store? And we're getting loads of views this morning on Google Street View.
Yes, whether it's a good idea or not, to be able to peer down people's streets and have a look.
Yeah.
Let's get a look at news where you are now.
See you in a moment.
Good morning. A loan shark and his girlfriend from Cheshire, who squeezed hundreds of thousands of pounds out of their terrified customers, will be sentenced today. Paul Nicholson and his girlfriend Tracy Rogers were found guilty of more than 26 charges relating to the loan shark business. The police found £26,000 in cash when they raided the couple's home in Delamere. The funeral takes place today of a Liverpool man murdered in Spain 3 years ago. A service for Gary Dunn will be held at the city's Anglican Cathedral. He was stabbed to death in Malaga in 2006, but it took his parents 3 years to get his body back because of Spanish laws. A scheme's been launched in Greater Manchester to try to reduce the numbers of road accidents footballers are involved in. Manchester City is hosting the event. Foreign players can get more information on British driving laws, and footballers from League Two youth teams right up to the Premiership's top scorers can attend driving courses. It follows a series of crashes involving high-profile players. Blackpool Pleasure Beach is selling off part of its heritage on eBay for the first time. Lots include a variety of original 1930s roller coaster carriages, water ride boats and Space Invader cars. Bids start at 99 pence. Manchester City are through to their first European quarter-final in 30 years after a 4-3 penalty shootout win following a 2-0 defeat by Aalborg in Denmark last night. Meanwhile, Liverpool and holders Manchester United find out their Champions League quarter-final opponents today. On to rugby, and two of Super League's slow starters go head-to-head tonight when Salford host Wigan at the Willows. The City Reds have had a difficult return to the top flight, winning just one of their first 5 games. But they put their troubles behind them earlier this week on a family fun night where the players, their families and coaching staff relaxed together in the hope of improving on-the-field fortunes.
We just feel that if things are good at home, then they tend to be good in the workplace, and you can provide a comfortable working environment. People turn up ready to work, they want to be at work, and if we can do our little bit to support that, we think that's important. I think that, you know, the opportunities for us to get together are limited, so the times that we can do it, I think we need to cherish and we need to make the most of it.
Now here's Heather with the weather.
Good morning. Well, there may well be some mist around where you are to start the day. However, we are going to see some sunshine as we go through the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine, in fact. There will be some cloud knocking about here and there, but a lot of that nice, bright, sunny weather we've got used to over the last couple of days. Temperatures down a notch or two, though, only getting to around 12 Celsius. Now, tonight looks very similar to last night. We are going to see a frost. Temperatures dipping down to 1s and 2s, maybe a 0 here or there. And we're also going to see some mist forming as well. However, it gets us off to a beautiful start tomorrow. It's cold and it's crisp and bright. A lot of sunshine around. We are going to lose some of that sunshine in the afternoon as the cloud builds up. But again, temperatures getting to around 12 Celsius. More of that cloud spilling in as we head towards tea time tomorrow, taking away quite a bit of that sunshine. Sunday, largely cloudy, maybe 1 or 2 bright or sunny spells. And Monday, the start of the working week, I'm afraid it's going to be cloudy and wet.
That's it for now. We're back with another bulletin in half an hour. Good morning, you're watching Breakfast with Charlie State and Susanna Reid.
Yes, it's been revealed the struggling bank Northern Rock continued with high-risk lending, even after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
A report by the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, also says the government knew as early as 2004 that it wasn't properly prepared to cope if banks like the Rock got into trouble, but failed to make it a priority.
Another of the government's flagship hospitals has been heavily criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff. Ministers say they're confident the problems will now be resolved. It comes after a damning report on conditions at Stafford Hospital earlier this week.
Broadway theatres dimmed their lights last night in tribute to the actress Natasha Richardson. Over the years, she performed in numerous theatre productions there. Her family, including her sister Jolie and her husband Liam Neeson, were joined by other actors to pay tribute to the actress, who died after a skiing accident in Canada this week.
President Obama made an unusual appearance on a primetime US chat show last night. Speaking to Jay Leno, he joked about some of the people he's having to work with now he's in charge.
I do think in Washington, it's a little bit like American Idol, except everybody is Simon Cowell.
Wow. Wow.
And just a few hours after charming American TV audiences, it emerged the president has recorded a video message to the people of Iran, calling for an end to the decades of distrust between the two countries.
There are concerns that an earthquake in the Pacific Ocean will only increase the amount of lava and ash currently pouring out of a volcano there. No one is thought to have been injured by the quake, but the eruption has thrown huge clouds of ash into the air, which are destroying wildlife and vegetation off the coast of Tonga.
Let's see what's coming up in a few minutes' time. Should bosses be nice or nasty to get the best results? The original winner of The Apprentice, Tim Campbell, will be here to tell us what he thinks.
Let's hope Sir Alan isn't watching. Or maybe he'll appraise his, what should we say, slightly abrasive style.
Yes, what works in sport, Mike?
Oh, that's an interesting question, isn't it?
Ferguson.
Because don't often we hear, not referring to Sir Alex, by the way, that people are too nice to be managers. Oh, he's a lovely person, but maybe a bit nice to be a good manager. I've heard that so many times before.
Yes, you've got to have a kind of a rough edge. You've got to be prepared to
But then you haven't
push
got to
it out
alienate players.
Or bully
by
them.
shouting at them too much, exactly, especially some of the sensitive young players just coming through.
Oh.
They're just flowers, aren't they?
Oh, flowers, I'm sure. I don't know about them being called there. I might take too kindly to that. Well, certainly a relieved boss this morning would be the Manchester City manager, Mark Hughes. Too close for comfort for City last night. They are, though, crucially into today's draw for the quarter-finals of the UEFA Cup after they beat the Danish champions Aalborg on penalties. Now, City lost their 2-0 first-leg lead late on, and so it was level on aggregate after extra time in Denmark, and Shay Given there was the hero, saving 2 kicks as City won the shootout 4-3. Now, before the UEFA Cup draw, for the second season running, 4 English teams are in the hat for the Champions League quarter-final draw. Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester United will learn their fate at around 11 this morning. We'll look ahead to this in just a moment. Andy Murray, though, will face Roger Federer in the semi-finals of the Indian Wells Masters 1000. The world number 4 came through a tough encounter against Ivan Ljubicic of Croatia, winning 7-5, 7-6 in the end. Boy, it was close to book his place in the last 8. Now, Andrew Strauss is fit to captain England for today's first one-day game against the West Indies in Guyana. But Andrew Flintoff's hip injury looks likely to keep him out until the 3rd game of the 5-match series. Now, earlier this week we saw her come close, a close second, but now double Olympic gold medalist Rebecca Adlington has made the pool her own here to win the 800 metres freestyle title at the British Swimming Championships in Sheffield. Look at the margin there, the 20-year-old finishing way ahead of Jasmine Carlin and Kerry Ann Payne. Now, let's talk and get excited about the Champions League draw, because Oliver Holt, chief sports writer for the Daily Mirror, has come onto the sofa. Hi, Ollie, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
Now, it gets exciting now because it's open season, isn't it? The English clubs can all draw each other.
Yes, they can, and I think we've got all 4 of our clubs through, and everybody else is going to want to avoid them. I think even the mighty Barcelona, I don't think will fancy, even though their manager Pep Guardiola is talking about how much he'd like to beat an English club. I think realistically they all want to avoid our teams.
And talking of avoiding teams, everyone, surely, given their current form, will just want to avoid Liverpool.
Yeah, even the other English teams will want to avoid Liverpool, and that includes Manchester United, I think, particularly after their drubbing at Old Trafford recently. Liverpool have this amazing overachievement in Europe. They're the #1 rated team in Europe over the last 5 years.
The second leg, especially for Liverpool, because it's the 15th of April, the 20th anniversary of the Hillsborough tragedy, and Liverpool want the date changed. Do you think UEFA will be sympathetic to that?
I think they will. I mean, certainly common sense suggests that they should be. Michel Platini has not exactly been kind to English clubs recently in his opinions on them, but I think even he should accept that this is a very emotive subject. It's not the most difficult thing. They can quite easily switch Liverpool's game, I would think, to the Tuesday rather than the Wednesday of the second leg, and that would fix the problem. So you really hope that common sense will prevail in that.
OK, putting you on the spot briefly, Ollie, do you see any English clubs not making it? Who do you think's most in danger, really, of not making it through?
Well, I think in terms of the way that you get some clues from the way they qualified for these quarter-finals, and I think Arsenal are probably a team in danger, depending on who they draw. I spoke to an Arsenal player earlier this week. He would like to get Villarreal. I think most Villarreal are probably the weakest team left in the draw, maybe Porto. I think if any of the English clubs draw Barcelona, it could be a problem. You know, they're a fantastic team. We get carried away with how good our teams are. Barcelona is still a fantastic team. So I think that'll be a danger, but we have to say the biggest danger to an English club is drawing another English club.
Great stuff, Ollie. Thanks very much. We look forward to it. Commentary on BBC Radio 5 Live and also the BBC Sport website. Now, the Olympic gold medalist sailor Paul Goodison was one of several people to pick up an MBE from the Queen yesterday. Goodison won gold in the laser class in Beijing last summer, but doesn't come from your typical sailing background. Well, this week I've been home with him, sailing near the M1 in Yorkshire. You can't get much further from the sea than in Rotherham in South Yorkshire, but sailing gold medalist Paul Goodison is proof that growing up here doesn't have to restrict your sporting ambitions.
I think for me it was almost escapism. I'm very keen into my football, play football quite a lot, but dealing with when you lose and it's not your fault can sometimes be a problem, where out here on the water by myself, it's almost like me against the elements, against the competition. Well, there are, loads of clubs, sailing clubs at lakes like this inland, right across the UK, but to what extent do they really nurture your talent, bring on your skills, and even give you the potential to go to the Olympics? I think you can go really high up just sailing inland on lakes very similar to this. I think I was sailing mainly inland and training inland until I was in my late teens and went to university in Southampton, and at that time I was still knocking around in the top few in the world. If you lean the boat away from you a little bit, the white rudder should be going straight down. That's good, just keep pointing at that buoy, keep looking forward.
These days, Paul Goodison trains at the National Sailing Academy at Weymouth and Portland, but this week he was back in Yorkshire on Pudney's Lake near Wakefield to help more urban sailors get their first taste of the water.
We thought we was going to tip up actually, thought we was going to blow over or something, but yeah, it's calm.
Seriously though, I thought it was going to be really boring, but it's not actually, it's alright, yeah.
Places like this really are key for people sailing inland. I mean, it's not just, you don't have to learn on the sea, you can come to places like this.
He has won gold. It's a world away from the sea off China, where Paul Goodison won his gold medal, but trying to sail on a balmy, windless spring day in Yorkshire was a challenge on its own.
Like, the trick to the light wind sailing is guessing where the wind's coming from.
Yeah.
And trying to get there. So if you look on the water, you see just behind where the boat is now, it's a bit darker.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's actually a breeze on the water.
Right. Just what does it mean to get the MBE?
It's just fantastic to be recognised. For me, the most special part was taking my parents and my grandma. For people like that, it is just fantastic to share in the celebrations.
Yeah. Never thought I'd sail like that in Wakefield on a flat lake. Could you spot the wind there?
No, you said you could, though. Were you just saying, yeah?
Yes, that's a good.
You couldn't see it
yeah,
at
that's
all.
right, Paul. Yeah, good. But no, amazing how they can do that. Though.
Mike,
Great
thanks
skill.
very much. We'll see you a bit later on.
I'm thinking uncompromising. You know, we're talking about sport and leaders generally. What
makes a good boss?
Uncompromising. Certainly works in sport, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yes.
What is the key to being a successful boss is the question. Some research says throwing your weight around and shouting at staff gets the best results.
Others say a friendly approach is far more effective. We're going to find out what the first ever winner of The Apprentice thinks. You'll remember Tim Campbell. Speaking to him in just a moment. First, though, let's get a lesson in how not to behave in the office.
Dreaded first day. Yeah. All right? Yeah, no, right, yeah. You've seen the vibe. Yeah. Chilled out. You know. Oh, dear. We work hard. I mean, we play hard. Play hard, which means we're working hard sometimes. Partly down to me, sure. I let them get away with murder. In return, they let me get away with murder. You know, the girls love me, but not in that way. But, you know, I suppose I've created an atmosphere where I'm a friend first and a boss second. Probably an entertainer third, but...
It's agony watching that, isn't it?
So Tim Campbell's joining us, picked by Sir Alan Sugar, of course, to be his first apprentice. Also here, alongside him, the architect and broadcaster, Maxwell Hutchinson, who's been managing people for more than 30 years. Very good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know where to start. Maxwell, firstly, let's start with you. Friend?
Well,
boss,
sort of, yes,
entertainer?
a bit of all of those sorts of things. I've been at it for 36 years. I've been employing people for 36 years. I started terribly, terribly young, and I didn't know what to do in the first instance. So I stamped my foot a little bit and bossed people around, and that didn't get me very far. So then I tried a very sort of soft and cuddly way, that I'm your friend business, and let's all go to the pub afterward.
The David Brent approach.
And then they walked all over me. So then I tried the throwing things and slamming doors school of management. I mean, literally, I remember a dreadful, dreadful day when I threw the stapling machine across the office.
OK, did it connect?
And that, sorry?
Did it connect?
It made no good at all. Because I used to barricade myself into my fortress room, you see. I thought this was really going to work.
And then
I'd pick up the phone and say, come and see me and bring your drawings, and slam the phone down, you see. Then they'd come in, and then I'd throw the stapling machine across the room. And then they'd go out and say, God, he's a really horrible man. So now I have a sort of middle ground. I believe it's about leadership. And a leader can do a variety of things, provided he's respected.
Well, come
That's
on then.
where I come back.
Tim, help us with this one. So you learnt off Sir Alan Sugar. Now,
Correct.
his persona certainly is, you know, he's dangerous. You know, this
Yep.
is a boss you do not want to mess with. He will, you know, he'll kick you out as soon as look at you if it goes wrong.
Yep.
You appear, your personality seems to be totally at odds with that. You seem
Correct.
like a very, you know, very charming, you know, that kind. What sort of boss have you become?
Well, my management style is, for me, it's about
being consultative. It's about getting people, not through coercion, but through cooperation, to buy into what I'm trying to achieve. And I usually find they work much harder like that. But I have a very good COO in Paul Humphreys, who can mix between being the bang on the table person and also be that person who's quite soft and encouraging. And I think it is that balance you need in order to be effective, because what we're remembering, when you're managing people, you're managing individuals, and there's not one style that actually works for everybody.
Yes, I suppose the trouble is it's all about how we perceive ourselves, isn't it? I mean, one person's consultative and cooperative could be another person's indecisive.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm sure you seem to find that your management style works, but I wonder if another person thinking that they have this very effective management style, actually people say he never makes a decision, he keeps coming and asking us, and I wish he'd just
the decision you've got to have, sorry Maxwell, the decision you've got to have is that you've got to have something that's fit for purpose. What is necessary? There's not one right management style. You can sometimes need to be autocratic, sometimes democratic, therefore consultative, and sometimes have that laissez-faire approach.
You see, now I'm getting confused, because what I want in a boss is someone who's consistent. I want to know,
I don't want them
sort of one day going in and hugging me, and the next day, do you know, I want someone who's,
extremely consistent now, and it's only taken me 36 years to know how to do it. I was an officer cadet when I was at school, and I learned a great deal from the army style of leadership. I mean, if you're going to lead people into battle, if you're going to say, follow me to your, maybe to your death, you want determined leadership, you want clear instructions, and they need to be able to read your mind. Your staff need to know what you're thinking. So if you, to make sure they do know what you're thinking, you must try and tell them and develop consistency.
Am I right in thinking that the real art of leadership is delegation?
It depends. Some people think to delegate everything is about leadership, and that's not right. But you should be in a position to trust your team to be able to take forward some of your actions. But that needs you as a manager to make sure that they're empowered enough to do that and they're competent and trained sufficiently. The difficulty is that you have a very thin line between an autocratic manager and a bully. And we don't want bullies in our workplace, because that causes people to leave, to walk out of place, and particularly now in the current economic environment, we need to nurture our staff, not bully them.
Yeah, and Maxwell, again, I mean, I am sure that lots of people think they're being decisive and good leaders, and perhaps other people do feel like they're being intimidated and told what to do all the time.
Well, when I have people in to have a difficult conversation, which inevitably you do, and I'm sure you do as well, I always say what I have to say, and then I end it by saying, is that fair? I ask the person that I'm being critical of, or trying to lead, or trying to change, is that fair? But in delegation that you're talking about, a message given is only a message when it's a message understood. And when I give messages to people, and quite a lot of things that I deal with are quite technical, you tell them to do things. And if they look blank, I say, do you understand? But people are really afraid of saying to their boss,
presumably
I
if they
don't
look blank,
understand.
you'd be a bit worried, won't you?
Well, they look at me.
They look completely blank.
Yeah, well, of course I am. I say, do you understand? But they're frightened. You must find this as well, though, that people are afraid to admit they don't understand the instructions
I
they're
hate
given.
to say this, but we are...
Well, I'm just going to quickly say, drinking with the troops, does that blur the line? Or is that a good way of fostering?
Simple thesis. Luke 6:31. Treat others as you would wish to be treated. That's how we do it at the Bright Ideas Trust.
And I have to say, you two have set the bar high in terms of dress.
The streak is serious.
Wait till we see you next time.
I feel like I'm underdressed now. The most dapper. That's one thing we've learned, isn't
You're
it?
missing a waistcoat, Charlie.
Nice to see you this morning. Thank you
really
very
lovely
much.
to see you. Thank you very much indeed. 7:46, you're watching Breakfast from BBC News. Let's update you on our main stories this morning. It's been revealed Northern Rock lent millions of pounds in high-risk mortgages after it was bailed out by the taxpayer.
Another hospital has been criticised for not providing proper care. The Healthcare Commission says Birmingham Children's Hospital had a shortage of beds, operating theatres and trained staff.
Also coming up on the programme a little later.
I did it
It is 40 years since Old Blue Eyes recorded this classic, but what exactly has made this song such a favourite for so long? He does it his way.
Yeah, Glenn in Aldershot knows. It says the song My Way can be sung by anyone in the world and have a different meaning to each and every one. That's the reason.
That is the reason, Alex. Morning.
Good morning, Susanna. It's a beautiful start to the day here. It's a little bit chilly in places. We have had a touch of frost overnight. There is some cloud around too, particularly across East Anglia, much of the Midlands and Northern England, parts of the central belt of Scotland. But if you do have grey skies overhead first thing this morning, then rest assured it should brighten up. We should all have the sunshine by this afternoon. Here's the map. You can see that cloud just shrinking as we go through the day, hour by hour. So apart from a little bit of mist maybe along the east coast of Scotland, there will be plenty of sunshine by 3 o'clock this afternoon. Temperatures responding as well after a cold start up to 12 or 13 Celsius. A bit of cloud perhaps along the east coast of England too, but more sunshine than yesterday for the likes of Lincolnshire and East Anglia. The cloud this morning will be gone by the middle of the afternoon. Sunny spells across southwest England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And as I say, those temperatures reaching 12 or 13 Celsius. After a bit of a chilly start, that'll feel pretty pleasant in the sunshine. And for most of us, the sunshine lasts into Saturday. A cold start tomorrow, but lots more sunshine to come. A bit more cloud on Sunday, but basically a pretty good looking weekend. Back to you two.
Alex, thank you very much.
And let's cross back to Aaron, who's talking about franchises this morning. Morning, Aaron.
I am indeed, because I was just about to ask you the question, what do all these companies have in common? And Susanna, you just said it, they are all franchises, and basically it means that not one of these companies, these franchises, is run by a single person, not even an executive committee, and believe it or not, that means McDonald's is not run that way, the Golden Arches. The big question, I guess for many, is what is a franchise? Well, basically it's an agreement between two parties. The franchisee, well, they pay a royalty, a fee to set up shop and then use one of these trademarks, and believe it or not, at the moment they're all proving very resilient. In fact, many of them are thriving, making a profit during these recessionary times. They also have a lower failure rate than your typical standalone startup company. Why? How do you do it? Let's find out. I've got two guests in the studio. Angie Baines is part of a franchise photography business, Venture Photography, for York and Hull Studios, and Brian Smart is the Director General of the British Franchise Association. To both of you, I say welcome to breakfast. Thanks for your time. Angie, let's start with you. Why did you set up a franchise as opposed, because you're a photographer, there's some of your work, as opposed to starting up your own business?
Well, I've been a photographer since leaving school, and with Venture taking images in a really contemporary, modern way, and having a proven business model, it was something that I really wanted to be a part of.
And Brian, I have to say, I was just mentioning, you start looking at these figures, it is quite amazing. I mean, why are franchises doing better? I mean, they are a business after all. Why are they doing better than your typical
business? Because there is business to be done out there. The question is, who gets it? If you're a franchisee and you've got customers walking past the door at 8:30, you open at 8 to catch them. If you're an employed manager, you keep the door shut till 9 and thank your lucky stars you don't have to bother with them. That's why franchising's working.
No, absolutely. Angie, how easy, or was it easy to set up? I should ask you that.
I wouldn't say it was easy, but I think it was a lot easier having the support of the franchisor, helping with getting the right finance and getting the right suppliers than it would have been had I have been by myself.
On your own, so you had that backup support.
That's right.
And that obviously is very key. Of course, Brian, a very important weekend coming up for the BFA. You've got the British and International Franchise Exhibition kicking off today, tomorrow at Olympia, I believe, right? Yes. Are we seeing, during this recessionary time, are you seeing more interest in people wanting to set up?
Yes, we are. There's 100+ businesses at Olympia over the course of this weekend, and we've got more pre-registrations of visitors for that show than we've ever had before. It's a great opportunity, providing you take care and do your homework, and the exhibition is a great opportunity to start doing that good homework.
And Angie, we hear about all these positives, but there's always a downside to anything we do. A downside to a franchise?
Still an awful lot of hard work, no 9 to 5 about it, and at the end of the day, although you've got the support from the franchisor, you are totally accountable for the own success of your own business.
So yeah, it is still a business, you've still got to work hard, of course. And Brian, very briefly, finance and credit, big problem for everybody at the moment, but do banks look perhaps more favourably to a franchise as opposed to starting up your own business?
Indeed they do, because what they're looking for is a solid business proposition, and if there's the track record of 30 other units which have done it and succeeded in the same way before, that makes it a very strong proposition, and the banks do look on that favourably.
Well, Brian Smart and Angie Baines, thanks very much for joining us on Breakfast. We much appreciate. And take a look at this. Susanna, that's got to melt your heart, doesn't it? Look at that. Isn't that great work?
Oh, that's so cute. Is that you when you were a baby?
Yeah, no. My wife wants one of these. Not the photograph, the baby, yeah.
OK, Aaron, she probably doesn't want that discussed on national television.
No, we'll probably leave that one there.
OK, hunting down old vinyls in dingy record stores was once a rite of passage for many teenagers, but the digital revolution means those shops are now under threat.
New figures show there are just over 300 independent record stores left in the UK. Breakfast Tim Muffet's been finding out if there's any way to save them.
They were once a feature on almost every high street. Independent record shops. Free from the large retail chains, they could stock whatever music they liked. The more unusual, the better. Shops like Raves from the Grave in Frome in Somerset. It stocks thousands of CDs and records, but like many independent stores, it's facing tough challenges from digital downloads and online retailers. Now, the rate at which independent music shops are closing really is pretty dramatic. According to the latest figures from the Entertainment Retailers Association, in 2005 there were 734 of them across the UK. Now, well, the figures come right down. In fact, there are just 305 left. They've more than halved in just over 4 years.
Hello Graham, how you doing?
Hi Tim,
good to see you. God, it's an amazing place, isn't it?
Graham Jones loves shops like this. He fears we could soon lose a unique part of British life. He's actually visited all 305 remaining independents to research his book Last Shop Standing, which looks into their unique appeal.
Everybody's got a memory of a record shop. Everybody can remember their first record or the first CD where they bought, and it's always in a record shop. If we carry on at this rate, there won't be a single record shop left in the country in 3 years' time.
But there is hope. This is Pure Groove in London, one of a number of independents which is doing well thanks to a complete overhaul. You can buy drinks here. It's got its own website, Bands Play Live. People often come here just to relax.
At the dawn of the independent record shop was, experience was kind of key. It was all about kind of creating a kind of community, and I think we've tried to kind of make a kind of contemporary version of that.
For Mr. Jam, who's a DJ on Radio 1 and 1Xtra, the decline of the record shop has had one big positive effect. Things are now much easier for new bands.
If you're a struggling artist, rather than you having to go and find a pressing plant, press up your 20 or 57-inch vinyl and going round to the record shops and hoping that the buyer or the manager of the record shop is in and that they'll buy one off you and then they'll try and sell it to other people. You don't have to do that. You can go, you can have your finished product, you can put it online, you can create your own website.
The collapse of Woolworths and Zavvi has been a good thing for independent music shops. Many have reported a rise in sales since Christmas. There's simply fewer places to buy CDs. So just as things are looking bleak, the recession may have thrown those that remain a lifeline. Tim Muffet, BBC News.
Yes, we're talking about Frank Sinatra's My Way this morning, aren't we? Because it's 40 years since it was written.
Yes. Lots of people getting in touch to let us know why they think it's such a good song. People are calling it powerful, inspirational. Liam from Basildon says it's the lyrics and the wonderful melody and their interpretation. But then again, Sinatra was the voice and was the man.
It doesn't do it for some people, though. My favourite song, says Catherine Dundee, is Faith, George Michael and Purple Rain. Both make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. That's the sign, really, of a song that gets you going, isn't it?
The hair on the back of your neck?
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Well, not that I'm
I haven't got that
particularly
much,
hairy, but you know, it's a saying. You know what I mean?
We're going to be speaking to the man behind another classic, Bright Eyes. Oh, that's one to joke the tears.
Mike Batt, yes. And Jason Donovan also here later on the musical theme, because he's just about to open in his own musical.
Yeah, let's ask him what his
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert,
very first record was, which one he bought when he went into one of those independent record stores all those years ago, and also what his favourite record now is. Time now, though, to get the news where you are. We'll see you in a moment.
Good morning. A loan shark and his girlfriend from Cheshire, who squeezed hundreds of thousands of pounds out of terrified customers, will be sentenced today. Paul Nicholson and his girlfriend Tracy Rogers from Delamere were found guilty of more than 20 charges relating to their loan shark business. The funeral takes place today of a Liverpool man murdered in Spain 3 years ago. A service for Gary Dunn will be held at the city's Anglican Cathedral. He was stabbed to death in Malaga in 2006, but it took his parents 3 years to get his body back because of Spanish laws. Job cuts at local newspapers across Greater Manchester have been described as a threat to local democracy. The owners of the Manchester Evening News and several weekly titles in the North West are cutting 150 posts and closing offices across the region. Speaking in the Commons, the MP for Stockport says it's worrying.
60 local newspapers out of 1,300 closed last year, according to the Newspaper Society, and we do not want our weekly newspapers in the Manchester area to end up suffering the same fate. Local newspapers like the Stockport Express, which has been going since 1889, play an absolutely essential role at the heart of their communities. This is because they are written by journalists who are constantly out and about and know the local area and its people well.
A scheme's been launched in Greater Manchester to try to reduce the number of road accidents footballers are involved in. Manchester City's hosting the event. Foreign players can get more information on British driving laws, and footballers from League Two youth teams right up to the Premiership's top scorers can attend driving courses. It follows a series of crashes involving high-profile players. And Manchester City are through to their first European quarter-final in 30 years after a 4-3 penalty shootout win following a 2-0 defeat by Aalborg in Denmark last night. Meanwhile, Liverpool and the holders Manchester United will find out their Champions League quarter-final opponents later today. Travel news, and in Liverpool, Church Road North's closed because of a building fire at the old Conservative Club between Fir Lane, Church Road and Woolton Road, and train services suspended on the West Coast main line between Edinburgh and Glasgow into Carlisle. Trains travelling from the south are terminating at Preston or Carlisle. And here's Heather with the weather.
Thanks, Carol. Good morning. Well, it may well be a misty start where you are this morning. It's certainly going to be a cold one. However, we are going to see some sunshine as we go through the day. So this morning, some frost around in patches here and there, and that mist will be around for a time. But after that, dry and bright and a good deal of sunshine. Top temperatures not quite as good as yesterday, getting to around 12 Celsius. That's about 54 in Fahrenheit. So as we go through to tonight, looks very much like last night. Again, it's going to be cold, temperatures dipping down to 0 in places. So we will see a touch of frost here and there. And we're also going to see a little bit of mist as well forming. And that sets us up for a misty but a cold start tomorrow. And then we're into a dry, bright morning for Saturday. Dry and bright, plenty of sunshine around. Temperatures getting to around 12 Celsius again.